我手边的这一台呢，就是好莱坞最喜欢用的摄影机之一，阿莱的艾丽莎 mini。然后今天我们就会用它来拍摄一支我们自己的电梯广告，一起来看吧。大家好，我是欧巴，好久没和大家见面了。今天我们就来聊一聊大家伙电影机。那最近几次项目呢，我都使用了阿莱的电影机来拍摄。由于拍摄的不是汽车广告，就是电梯广告，故事性呢不是特别的强，所以我就只在这里放一个照片好了。那我们先来看看吧。
我有一个梦想，就是做一个超级厉害的主持人。能马上长大，但是我可以马上成为一名发明家。自从学得非常好，我可以做它，做游戏，做动画，编故事。我做的机器人可以跳舞，可以踢足球。等我长大，要发明厉害的机器人，帮助人类做更多的事情。
那我拍摄这支短片呢，使用的机器是阿莱的 Alexa mini。那德国的阿莱是全球最大的影视器材生产商，已经有100多年的历史。无论是从摄影机还是灯光，它都是行业里的老大哥。Alexa mini 呢是好莱坞最喜欢使用的摄影机之一，有很多优秀的影视作品都是用这个机器拍摄的，比如训练大伙的Birbarkest、切尔诺贝利。知一下阿莱给您一个官方的录影器，把使用阿莱的摄影机拍摄的素材混剪到一起。大家有兴趣的话，可以去网上搜索来看看，非常优美。一提到电影机呢，相信绝大多数人和我一样，第一印象就是贵。没错，确实很贵。Alexa mini 呢，不算镜头和其他配件，光是这个方块形状的影机就要接近40万元。那我在拍摄时使用的蔡司的 Ultra Wide 定焦角度组，一箱的镜头价格也在40万元左右。再加上拍摄时的其他设备，产生一些镜头就接近100万。所以在片场的时候一定要拿稳设备，换镜头的时候万一手一滑，大家就都得去给器材店换大电话。我相信绝大多数影视从业者之所以选择电影机来拍摄，都是为了电影机出色的科学和平衡。最近10几年呢 ，Red 横空出世，参数上吊打阿莱，颇有一副要进军电影市场的气势。但是电影市场呢，普遍还是比较接受阿莱。原因很简单，因为阿莱简单易用，历史悠久，并且色彩得到了行业的认可，基本上算是制定了行业的标准。Alexa mini 搭配阿莱的 Log C 曲线拍摄的原始素材，画面就已经非常漂亮了。并且 Log C 拍摄的原始素材是自带还原啦，在播放器里看是灰片，但是只要放进剪辑软件，就会自动还原成709，非常方便。那使用阿莱是不是可以为所欲为了呢？其实不是的，几乎所有的电影机刀感都不强，Red 也一样。可能厂商觉得用得起电影机的剧组都不缺足够的钱吧，毕竟阿莱配低灯，为它配好的天经地义。所以在片场使用电影机一定要给够光线，不然的话到底就直接起飞了。比如说这个镜头原生感光是800，但是光线不够，我就开到了1600，暗部已经出现肉眼可见的照相。为了追求电影画质，必然就要做出一些牺牲。除了灯光呢，还有体积，因为电影机要处理大量的数据，是发热大户。为了给机器散热，确保它能够长时间的拍摄，机器的体积一般都很大，并且为了配合不同人的使用习惯，机器的监视器、跟焦器、手柄等配件都不是集成的，都是需要外接的。再加上镜头、平台、脚架、把这个一套安装好，可以拍摄固定机位的 Alexa mini，差不多就有60-70斤了，接近一个娇弱的女朋友的体重。这么一个对比，是不是微单加武器一点都不值了？那么问题来了，阿莱和女朋友，你选哪一个呢？由此可见，电影机每一次播放机位都是兴师动众。那这个从侧面说明了电影机不适合单兵作战。一般来说呢，正常拍摄需要4个人一起合作。那第一个呢，当然是在机器左边的负责长镜的摄影师了。那第二个呢，就是在机器右边的摄影大助叫边焦员，因为电影机的都是做对焦的，需要专人来做这个事情。4点机器，第3个3、2、1开始，3、2、1，别动，3、2、1，走。那第3个呢，就是录音室，因为我的电影机没有无接口或者内录的效果也不好，一般就需要录音室去一个小的麦克风来收音，并且用单独的录音器来录音。有了这3个人呢，拍摄的基本工作才能够正常的进行。但是还不够，因为我们是录音器的录音器里面，所以他们是分开的文件，并且标准还是跟沟通一样。那后期对轨就是剪辑师的噩梦了，所以呢还需要人手。那程序员除了在片场打板帮助分析和轨道以外呢，还需要记录每一个镜头和音频的信息，帮助剪辑师 一个音频录音一个视频，以上4个人呢都是拍摄时最基本的配置，其实也还不够。如果要拍摄移动镜头，就还需要一个人来推滑轨。一般对小剧组而言呢，这个工作就找给编辑人了。因为电影是非常昂贵，不管是哪家器材做的公司，都会派一个编辑人到片场来收机器。那除此以外呢，编辑人还要负责组装机器、搬运机器、换镜头。自然而然，他们承担了这一部分动作的风险。比如有一次拍摄结束后，我们的编辑员在搬运设备时不小心摔坏了脚架，开头的那个小短片是8月份去北京拍摄的，相信很多人已经认出来这个小朋友是谁了。没错，这是一个唯一的好男人。不得不说，北京的影视资源确实比华南要丰富很多啊。同样的设备外加一台录音机和一个调色麦克风，一天的租金比深圳还要便宜2块钱。北京的竞争真的很大的。我们还在片场偶遇了张亮老师，在隔壁景里餐厅，相信很快我们就会在网上看到了。好了，扯远了，小朋友的戏真的是非常的不好拍。那天我们一共拍摄了4支小短片，一共38个镜头，我们一共拍摄了13个小时，至于吃饭的1个小时。每个镜头平均只有19分钟的时间，再加上每一个镜头都要挪动6、7十斤的机器和实时声光，并且重复拍摄好几遍甚至10几遍，真的是非常的不容易。那希望大家看在我们这么不容易的份上，给个1键3连吧。好了，本期视频就到这里了，希望这个视频对你有帮助。如果你有哪里好了，我是我爸，下期再见，拜拜。
First, let's talk about the drone. Now, before I dive into the specs, I just want you guys to hear this. This thing sounds so badass when you turn it on. The first time I saw this drone, I was definitely like, whoa, the design is unlike any of DJI's other drones. It definitely has a very unique look. Now, the first thing that stood out to me about this drone is its battery life. With my normal FPV drones, I would get anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes of flight time, depending on the power output and the way that I would fly. That's definitely not much time, and the reason that I had to travel with so many batteries. DJI has managed to make this FPV drone's maximum flight time 20 minutes, which is a huge step forward for FPV. It almost didn't feel right when I was first flying it because I was so used to returning my drone back to the ground after only a couple of minutes of flight time. So to be able to keep this thing up in the air for 20 minutes is really insane. This is definitely DJI's fastest drone. In full manual mode, you can reach speeds of up to 140 kilometers per hour and accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 3 seconds, which is a lot of fun. You're also now able to flip on every axis, just like a normal FPV drone. Now, you're not able to fly fly in manual mode right out of the box. In order to unlock manual mode, also known as acro mode, you have to change a few settings in your goggles, and you'll have to loosen your throttle joystick so the stick doesn't automatically spring to the center. This allows you to be in full control of your throttle without having it automatically jump to 50% power. Now, unlike traditional FPV drones, on DJI FPV we are able to change the pitch of the camera from our remote. Now, this is very beneficial because in FPV, the angle at which your camera is set at directly determines the speed at which you fly. Let me explain. The camera angle is 0 degrees and the drone will be in this position when the horizon is center of the goggles. So the thrust from the props is only going down, causing the drone to stay in place. Now, if we tilt the camera to about 45 degrees, you can see that the drone needs to be tilted this much in order for the horizon to be center frame in our goggles. Now, the drone isn't going to be hovering in one place. It's going to be moving forward because of the way the props are angled. So the greater the tilt of the camera, the faster the drone will move in a forward direction. Being able to modify the camera angle remotely is great because I can now choose the speed at which I want to fly at during my flight and not have to physically bring the drone back down to the ground and change it by hand. Now, the really cool thing is that you don't have to fly this FPV drone in manual or acro mode. You can fly it in normal or sport mode just like any other DJI drone that you're already used to flying. It's great to be able to switch between the different modes because if you're ever in a bad place while flying in manual mode, you can simply just change it back to normal mode and the drone will hover like a regular DJI drone. This is a really comforting safety feature that I wish I would have had back when I was first starting FPV. Now, I remember when I was first starting FPV, one of the hardest skills to master was precisely landing in one place. But now that we're able to put the drone into normal mode at any time, we can really easily land very accurately wherever we want without having to spend a ton of time practicing precision landings. Now, let's talk about the camera. The camera is able to record 4K at up to 60 frames per second and 4K at up to 120 frames per second. 4K 60 looks really good, and I found it to grade really nicely. These are all clips shot at 4K 60. Now, the lens is ultra wide at 150 degrees. Now, you're only able to use the full 150 degrees when you're shooting at either 50 or 100 frames per second. When you're shooting 4K 60, you can go as wide as 142 degrees. DJI stabilization algorithm is on. The footage that comes right out of the drone is buttery smooth, and this allows us to skip the whole process of having to stabilize our footage later on in post. DJI is really making big moves here and making FPV so much more immersive and fun with these resolution updates. You can easily change the camera settings in your goggles as well as the shutter speed and ISO. You can choose to switch under the auto camera settings. You're also able to record both internally on the drone as well as on the goggles. This is great because if anything happens to the drone, you can have a copy of the file directly on the goggles. Now let's talk about the goggles. These are DJI's second generation of FPV goggles. They provide a crystal clear live view at 8 FPS at 120 frames per second. Now, that might not sound like a lot of resolution, but you have to understand that before DJI even came out with their FPV system, this is the image that FPV pilots would be seeing. It's literally hideous. That's basically what every FPV pilot was used to up until 2019 when DJI had released their FPV system, which is now even better than their previous generation of goggles. It has a consistently stable, low latency, long range HD signal connection that I've found to be very reliable when flying. I'm really happy with this resolution increase because it just makes flying FPV that much more immersive. The goggles offer the same buttons and controls that I loved on the first model, and the menu layout only has a few minor changes, but overall it's pretty much the same as before. So with the new DJI FPV comes a completely new remote. It's much smaller and much lighter than the first model. One major change they made is the ability to unscrew the joysticks, allowing you to pack up the remote without having to worry about the joysticks getting damaged. This thing feels really nice in your hands and also gives you the option to optimize the resistance of the joysticks by turning these screws hidden in the back of the remote. On the left here we have the scroll wheel, which allows us to change the pitch of the camera. Now we also have this new button that allows us to emergency brake and hover. When the pilot presses this button, it'll come to a stop and hover in one place. Now it's important to keep in mind that the faster you're going, the longer it's going to take for you to actually stop and hover. So if you're going top speed, it's going to take you a second to actually stop and hover. But this is a huge feature because if you're ever in a tight situation, you don't know what to do, you can just hit that button and allow the drone to stop and hover in one place. And we also have the return to home button, which can be very useful. Now DJI has also come out with this one-handed motion control. I've never used anything like this before, so it felt pretty foreign to me at first, but I got the hang of it pretty much right away. It takes about 10 seconds to connect to your drone, and once it's linked, you're presented with a short instructional video in your goggles. Double-click the red button to start the props, and then hold the red button to get the drone to take off and hover at 120 meters. Then you're able to rotate the drone by moving the controller left and right like this. To accelerate, pull the trigger.
What I'm seeing now is a white circle in the middle of the screen, and whenever I point the remote, that circle moves. It's almost like a Wii or something on the TV screen.
It definitely felt pretty weird at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's a really fun and intuitive way to fly your drone. Now, you're only able to use the motion controller in the N or S mode. You can't use this remote for full manual. Now, that brings me to the DJI Virtual Flight Simulator. Everyone starts learning at the end of the simulator. Because of how difficult it is to fly FPV, it's vital to understand the controls in the simulator before you actually try and motion the letter. I found the simulator to be a lot of fun, and I thought it was really cool that you can view it through the goggles, which makes it feel a little bit more like FPV. Now, the last thing that I'm really excited about is DJI's new health management system, or HMS. HMS can be found within the DJI Fly app, and it can be used to sense and keep track of the modules that need to be repaired or replaced on your drone. This is absolutely game-changing for the world of FPV because an inevitable part of the hobby is crashing. Everyone I know that flies FPV has crashed at one point or another, and with crashes comes damage to your drone. Previously, you'd have to spend tons of time troubleshooting and testing different components in your drone to figure out what's broken and what needs to be fixed and replaced. This is something I personally didn't even do because I just don't have that time. I'm always busy doing other projects, so I would just send my drones to a specialist to get them fixed. But now, with DJI FPV, I can plug the drone into the DJI Fly app and allow the app to scan the drone and figure out what parts might be damaged or broken. And from that point, you can just order the specific parts that you might need. And now, obviously, DJI knew this, so they designed the drone in a special way that allows you to replace a lot of the components very easily. So overall, I am just very impressed with this drone, and it makes me really excited to see where the future of FPV is going. If you're someone that's been wanting to get into FPV, but it just seemed too complicated and too hard to get into, this is probably the perfect drone for you. First, I think that with the launch of DJI FPV, DJI has really just taken the lead in the FPV scene. Overall, this drone has really surpassed all of my expectations as to where I thought FPV would be at in 2021. These are all really amazing advancements, and I'm really excited to have DJI FPV as part of my filmmaking journey. I hope you guys enjoyed this little review. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the lab. For today's video, I'm going to go over my top 5 tips for mobile videography using the iPhone. As you guys might know, for this channel, I've been doing these iPhone cinematic videos for a minute now, and this has definitely been my go-to for every shooting situation. And hopefully by the end of this video, you still have one of these tips for your mobile videography. So without further ado, I don't want to waste any time. Let's go straight into the first tips. Tip number 1 is to shoot on the native camera app. A lot of people ask me what applications I use, and they're surprised almost every time when I tell them I use the native camera app. It's so powerful. It shoots HD and also shoots 4K at 60 frames per second and also at 24 frames per second, which is what I'm going to be focusing on when I'm showing you guys these examples. The first example I'm going to show you guys is shooting in slow motion mode. Alright, the first thing you're going to notice is that I'm recording at 1080 and 120, and we're just going to do easy transition into the water. Now I'm going to make a new project file. It's going to be in 1080, and make sure you set it to 24 frames per second. Now I'm going to drop that clip down. Now I'm just looking for the part that I want to slow down. And I'm just going to hit the range select tool, which is R. Select this portion right here, and then I'm going to go up here and hit automatic speed. This is going to slow it down to 10%. And you get that super slow motion effect. Like I mentioned before, don't overcomplicate this process. Once you hit the lock screen, you get access to the camera app in the bottom right, or you can just swipe over to the right. It's the same thing, and you really want to focus on capturing the moment versus going through your settings and having to change the shutter, having to change the aperture. So when in doubt, when you're out shooting on the gun off the hip, you could count on the native camera app. Just don't overcomplicate things. It makes your life a lot more simple, and just focus on getting the shot, telling the story, getting the shot, capturing the moment, and worry less about the settings later. That is still super important, but I'll probably dive more deeper into that in a later video. But just for this, focus on the native camera app. It won't disappoint you, and it's always super reliable. Alright? Alright, so now that you've mastered the native camera app, I want you guys to focus on the 3P special. And this is my personal favorite. I've also taught this in my moment course, which you guys can get access to in the link below. But this is the 3-shot variation that I like to call the 3P special. So what is the 3P special? And it's just a made-up term that I made in my mind to remember these 3 things. Wide, medium, and close. And I used to work at KFC as well, so 3P special kind of reminds me of leg, thigh, and leg. It's kind of silly, but if you think about it in those terms, and you can do a 4-piece too, you can include the rest if you want. But yeah, if you have the iPhone 11 Pro, you have access to 3 different lenses. You have the ultra-wide, the wide lens, and also the telephoto lens. And if you shoot these 3 shots with the exact same shot, that pretty much gives you a 3P special. But you could also use the 3P special in just establishing a scene. So if you're shooting a scene, shoot 3 different shot variations, and then you can establish a scene and go on to the next scene. Don't worry if you don't have the latest iPhone with 3 lenses. I've made a video with the iPhone XR, which only has a single lens. And all you need to do is really just walk closer or further to establish your shot. And it just takes a little more work, but it's all the same thing at the end of the day. but I'm just giving you guys a bare bone structure. Why you get close, and you can go macro, you can go super tele, you get really crazy and throw it on the gimbal and just change up your shot variations. But if you could just remember to shoot it 3 different times, 3 different ways, 3 different compositions. And that'll really help you in elevating your mobile videography game. Alright, hyperlapses. Hyperlapses are definitely a staple in my style of videography. You've probably seen them in all throughout my videos, and I've been doing them since freshman year in college, so I really love the look of it, especially when it's a moving time lapse. If you guys don't know what the definition of a hyperlapse is, it's literally just a moving time lapse, and you could do it in different variations, going left to right, right to left, into things, out of things, and it just has a really cool effect. But for this video, I want to show you guys a super simple way to do it using the time lapse app, also in the native application. And while I'm doing this, I'm also doing it handheld, and I'm also doing it with a stabilizer, just to show you guys the difference between the two. First thing I'm going to do is open up the native app, and then I'm going to switch over to the time lapse feature over on the left. You might have noticed that I switched over to the ultra wide lens so that I can have a wider perspective. Now I'm just going to try my best to walk and keep the center frame. Since you are going handheld, it's not the easiest thing to do when you're wrapping around things. I would suggest this technique for walking straight into things or coming out of things. Then when you're finished, it'll look a little something like this. I also tried doing this on the Instagram hyperlapse app as well, but it's kind of ass, so I wouldn't suggest you actually using it. And if you take the time to use a stabilizer, your results will look like this. When you're using a stabilizer, you're pretty much just using the same technique, but it's a lot more stabilized now. Just focus on breathing, focus on keeping it center framed, and then your results will look a little something like this. I'm using vertical video as an example, but shoot on horizontal mode if that's what you're going for. It also depends on what kind of video you're creating. Is this a full CD video that you're trying to showcase like on a YouTube channel, or is this a video that you just want to share on Instagram stories, or on Twitter, or just send to your friends? Alright, now let's talk about shooting on different perspectives. So some of you guys might have seen in my recent videos, I've strapped the iPhone to my chest using something sort of like a chest mount. These give you cool perspectives because your hands are free. And then an example I'm going to use is when we were in Turkey and we found this pug, and hands free. I got to sort of, embrace the pug, and it sort of looked like something like this. And I also used it on this audio lantern to sort of achieve a little animation effect. And it just gives it a cool perspective when you show hands free. I also use the head mount in a lot of my shots. It also just gives you a cool perspective when you're not shooting from your hands. Most of the time, maybe 9 times out of 10, you're going to be holding your phone or you're going to be using a stabilizer, and it'll be probably eye level to chest level. But once you start to think a little differently and change up your perspectives, it'll give your mobile videography just a little edge and make it a little different. About creativity is just putting the camera in different places, doing different things, and just trying to figure out what looks good and what doesn't look good. And then this is also to your discretion. So whether you're shooting super high using like a monopod or super low doing a tracking foot shot, just find ways to change up your perspective, and then it'll just give you a nice edge to your mobile videography. Alright, so you've made it to the last tip, and I know you've already invested a bunch of money into your phone, a bunch of money into your editing device, and maybe accessories for your phone as well. But a number one thing that I think all mobile videographers should purchase or even look into investing into is a gimbal. I personally use the DJI Osmo Note 4, it's the latest one now, but you don't have to purchase not one, but 3 or even 2 is actually still very YengYionn actually makes a couple of really good gimbals as well. Looking into it, most of the time it sits around close to $100. For those of you guys who've been following me for a pretty long time, you probably noticed one of my signature shots is when you're following the front and shooting the back. For me personally, one of my favorite is just time to really just be following someone and change up personalities, people, you should group, you should see person. I really personally like isolating the person, showing them walking through the shadow landscape, whether it's a cityscape or woods. It just has such a look.
那我也不卖关子，在这次拍摄中呢，我带了3台手机稳定器，那分别是飞宇的 G6 Plus、智云的 Small X， 还有大疆的 OM4。那带那么多手机稳定器的原因呢，是因为我的确不经常用手机去拍视频，所以我也不知道到底哪款手机稳定器会更稳更好用，所以就用了老妈妈，一次性都带过去。其次，我们有拍了1、2个侧拍镜头，那主要是想测试一下 iPhone 12 Pro Max 在这种山路里的防抖会不会有很大的提升。但一定要记住，不要轻易模仿，除非你对你的手机耐摔能力很自信。我们这次用的是自己创作的雨蛙吸盘，它跟别的车载吸盘呢有个很大的区别，就是它是真空吸盘，这就能吸得十分的牢固，不用担心会掉。像这样，我们用长焦和标准镜头各拍摄了一段画面，那个人感觉呢稳定性还是挺好的。再来就是我们有想过把 iPhone 15 Max 挂上无人机去飞一些航拍素材，但是我也不懂为什么会产生这种魔性的震动，这方面根本无法用过。最后就是镜头了，这次我们基本上用的都是手机自带的摄像头，那只有几个画面是挂上了变形镜头去拍的，像这种有蓝色的拉丝光斑，就是挂了变形镜头所拍摄出来的。但有一说一啊，挂上变形镜头后呢，那画质会变糊，而且对焦也没那么准确，所以我们基本只有当拍摄空镜的时候会用到。因为这次的拍摄呢，主要目的还是想测试一下 iPhone 12 Pro Max 的防抖、画质、杜比世界 HDR 几个方面的表现如何，所以我们一个一个。首先是防抖 ，iPhone 12 Pro Max 在标准镜头的模式下呢，采用的是传感器防抖。在我不用稳定器的情况下，我去拍摄的画面，我感觉还行。但如果说要以手持去做一些比较复杂或者范围比较大的运镜呢，还是有点吃力的。但只要一上了稳定器，稳定效果就会直线上升，画面会十分顺滑。其次是画质，基本我全程都是用 HDR 的4K 60帧去拍摄的，但因为有一些画面做了变数，所以最后输出的是25帧。不得不说 iPhone 12 Pro Max 的 HDR 是真的厉害。我们刻意在正午的时候去了一个稻田里拍摄，那逆光的状态下还能很大程度的保留了人物辐射，而且没有过曝。这要放在之前啊，不要说手机了，大部分相机啊都要么只能保留天空细节和人物黑掉，要么呢就保留了人物细节，天空过曝。所以这对于我来说十分的惊喜。当然了，这只是阳光充足的情况下，但只要当光线不足时，噪点也就随之而来。在标准镜头模式下呢，噪点控制的还算可以，但广角跟长焦端几乎不能用。再来说下杜比世界的 HDR 表现能力，其实我没什么资格去讨论这个，因为我对 HDR 其实不是特别熟悉，所以我在 P2 看了没有做调试的 HDR 画面，大家如果感兴趣就可以去直观的看一下吧。本来这期视频呢到这里就应该结束了，但是我发现有部分观众会对我们这期视频有着自发的纠结，所以在视频的最后呢，我还想给大家简单说一下这支短片的创作意图。其实也不复杂，就是我们去若干山玩，顺便测试这手机的影像能力，看到什么拍什么，仅此而已。也会有人觉得，既然只是测试画质，为什么要做那么多的转场的节奏效果？拍风景不就好了吗？但我想跟大家说的是，我一直都是希望提供给大家不一样的思路，或者说不一样的可能性。就好像这次的创作，我想的不单单是展示 iPhone 12 Pro Max 的画质有多牛，防抖有多稳，这样的内容我相信大家都已经在其他频道看过。我想的更多的是，我要如何结合这所有的优点去进行不一样的创作，能给到大家更多手机拍摄短片的可能性，以至于激发大家也能有更多不一样的拍摄想法。所以，当你还在质疑别人的时候，可能别人想的东西已经比你更深一层。好了，这期视频就先分享到这里。如果大家觉得这个视频对你们有用的话呢，请给我个一键3连加关注，我们下期再见。
ensure the quality. Thanks for watching my video. I want to invite you to join the Colors in the Sky, Asus Pro ALA and 3D Quality Photo Contest. You can win amazing prizes like the Asus Pro ALA monitor, the Asus Pro ALA mini computer, and some of the official 3D Quality present manuals. The contest period is from December 1st to December 20th to participate. Submit your Instagram photo to the contest link you can find in the description box.
前锋到站，假象。
在《北京好人》的故事中，葛优饰演的张北京戴的还是《北京你好》里的那顶帽子。葛大爷又提到了一谋，上一次是他在奥运开幕式上给儿子扫个镜头，这一次直接是没接到一谋的电影。饰演表舅的是平原上的夏洛克里的张善义，表演非常的真实自然，而且他本身就是河北衡水人。葛大爷还调侃了自己当年的那句移动广告词：神州行，我看行。葛大爷在和表舅喝酒壮胆的时候，唱歌的是郝云，他们身后还有绣春刀导演陆阳，同时也是金刚川的导演之一。在结尾，表舅开三轮车的镜头也呼应了平原上的夏洛克里的战役和超英骑三轮车追凶。在天上吊行 UFO 的故事中村民在看露天电影的时候，预告片里边是《唐人街探案3》的公映许可证，正片里换成了疯狂的外星人。小秦和董老师出场是《唐人街探案》的背景音乐。王博饰演的黄大宝原型是手工梗，影片中从手工梗里那里借了不少的道具，像破釜沉舟的跑步机就是借的原件。王彦辉在被问为什么不去看电影，答电影的主演不好看，也是调侃了《疯狂的外星人》里边的黄渤。在采访中会不会有 UFO 的存在可能性的时候，当时客串出场的郭帆也是《金刚川》里的导演之一。在夺冠以后，彭昱畅又一次的饰演年轻时候的黄渤，是因为彭昱畅和黄渤长得像吗？在最后一刻的故事中，范伟饰演的老师有一点乡村教师的感觉。
上课。
大头雷佳音还是没能逃过大头梗，他说头是憋大的，同时也调侃了范伟春节的小品卖拐。电影里的那个现代小学其实是真实存在的，取景地是在杭州市淳安县千岛湖区的富文乡中心小学，也被称为最美的乡村小学。范伟扮演的老师原型是支月英，在现实生活中，支月英19岁就去了乡村支教，并坚守了36年。截止到2018年底，全国共有乡村教师290万人，现在数字还在飙升。正是这些人让大山里的孩子们才有了学习和出去见世界的机会。在回乡之路的故事中，邓超和吴京都是金刚川的主演。在预告片里，老师对学生们说：“考出去，谁都不要再回来。”这句话张桂梅老师曾经说过，但在正片里是学了本事，让咱们这儿变个样。朴树林的角色原型是张炳贵，带领乡亲们种苹果树治沙，将400万亩的毛乌素沙漠变绿了。结尾，现实生活中的治沙人们出现在画面中，还有郭成旺、牛玉琴、石冠银等几位治沙人。岳云鹏和贾玲客串的时候用的都是自己的本名岳龙刚和贾鱼玲。在神笔马亮的故事中，马亮任职的地方叫做西红柿文化馆，还有西字的车牌西红汽水，这都在说明这个故事发生在西红柿首富里的西红柿。马亮去的地方叫做回乡村，在《夏洛特烦恼》里，马冬梅给夏洛煮的就是茴香打卤面，而且茴香也是谐音回乡。村上有夏竹杂货店，就是西红柿首富里的金融界黑寡妇夏竹。在《夏洛特烦恼》里，夏洛要把浪漫全部都还给马冬梅，马冬梅想让夏洛送他一屋子的向日葵，这次马亮直接在稻田里送给他一地的向日葵。秋霞在跟马亮视频通话的时候，背后的桌子上摆着一个微波炉小鱼缸，跟《夏洛特烦恼》里马冬梅屋里的是同款，因为这个微波炉一用就断电，干脆就拿来养鱼了。马亮伙同村长骗秋霞的那个屋子里有一张肖画像，这张画在《夏洛特烦恼》中也出现过，画上是前苏联第一美人伊琳娜·阿尔夫罗娃。西红柿合唱团拍摄地是在东北大学老纪念馆，开头有特写。稻田的取景地是在沈阳市的沈北新区兴隆台西国族星光村的盗墓空间里，也叫3D 稻田画，占地1550亩。